Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the program today. This is a Q&A live, and I'm hoping that you'll participate in our broadcast today, and you can do that by asking questions. This is your opportunity to get at me and to get some questions to me. If you want to write a question, you can put one on there. I would put capital question and then followed by a brief question. Long questions are a little harder to digest for a program like this, so shorter questions are better. You can also make a little donation that kind of moves your question up to the top because I want to answer as many questions as I can. And today's topic is, how to protect yourself against shame attacks. And again, I can answer any other questions if you'd like, but that's kind of the topic I wanted to share with you today. And shame is a big issue for a lot of people. There are a lot of shame-based families, alcoholic families, addicted families, narcissistic families, good old performance-based families, all kinds of dysfunctional families. We all come from one. Uh, the Any family that has more than one person in it is probably going to have some dysfunction because that's how we operate. And the because once that Wi-Fi system of the emotional field, once that we have more than one person, then we have some chronic anxiety that begins to function in the relationship system. And when that starts to happen, then we start having more reactivity and we feel more pull to togetherness. We feel more distance of being pushed apart. It's like having two magnets. And if you've ever seen two magnets, let's say horseshoe magnets, and you begin to bring them together, a lot of people don't remember, but if you remember, if you take two magnets and put them together, you can only come so close where they start pushing away from each other because that magnetic field begins to push them away. And that's what happens in relationships. And I think the whole work of self-differentiation is working to come as close as you can while being yourself without making that turn of the magnet. I have a video coming up in a week or so, and I've been putting out videos on Wednesdays. I hope you'll check the premieres on those and check so that you can join us for getting that video up to you right away. And one of them's going to be how to protect yourself from against shame attacks. I just think that's a really important topic for a lot of people, my clients, groups that I'm doing, workshops. Usually this type of problem comes up so often. And we often don't know what to do in those situations. We just feel stuck or we just feel pulled in to the relationship. There are three things in this video I'm going to be talking about, and I hope you will watch the video, but I want to give you a little preview of that. The first thing we need to do whenever there's a shame attack from others, and I'm going to talk about shame attack from others, and then I've got another point about self-shame attacks. When we have shame attack from others, remember you are not them and they are not you. That's a very important and powerful notion. And we often forget it. Because actually, that notion of I'm not them and they are not me, shame attacks are done to cancel out this thought. You are me and I am you. That's what a shame attack does. And so it cancels out that notion that you are you and they are them, and you're not the same. And again, that's where the differentiation comes in. I'm different from someone else. I can stay connected while being different. And that's self differentiation, being your true self while staying connected to the other person. So we first want to remember they are not us and we are not them. Second of all, shame attacks are not about you. Shame attacks are about them. Now you say, well, they're coming at me, or they're coming towards me, or they're directed at me. Oh, yeah, they are. And I think you could probably give lots of examples about, um, you could give lots of examples for shame attacks. And that when we have a shame attack occurring, we want to remember it's not about us, it's about them. And the remembering that notion, even though it's addressed to me or directed at me, it really isn't about me. Just like if someone says, well, Jerry, you're just stupid. Well, I'm not really stupid. They just had a need to say, Jerry, you are stupid. It's not reality. It's not true. Or you're worthless. Or, man, why can't you get your life together? You're just so immature. Or you're just so, which are all shaming statements. You should have done that. You should have done this. The shoulds, and again, I think we always should remember, should statements are shaming statements. So remember, shoulds, oughts, you should have, why didn't you? Those are all shame statements. And it's about the person who's making them, not about the person who's getting them. And then thirdly, self-shaming is a self-alienation experience. And the good news is self-alienation is something you can control. When we're going to do a self-shaming attack. And I've had all of these attacks, external and self attacks. I want to mention to you that I've got a workshop coming up in September. It has limited spots. It's just for a small group, and I work with a small group of people, no more than 12, and we work on getting your family out of you. And this will be the last one for this year of the month-long workshops. And I hope you'll go on my website and find that and sign up. We still have a couple spots left if you're interested. I've really enjoyed working with the people in these workshops, and they have just been amazing, and the people have shared how much it's been a help to them. I hope you'll consider that. So I've got, someone asked me, well, what comebacks are good for shame? What do you say when families are nosy in my life and when your brother says mean things to you and calls you sensitive or often oversensitive? You're just too sensitive. And I think that's a common problem, Crow. And that happens, I think, to a lot of us a lot of times, especially in families. And again, someone feels very comfortable in putting you down or calling you something that will put you in a one down position to them. Now, again, the issue becomes really that statement is not about me. It's about your brother, for example. And it's about how he's feeling and what he's wanting to accomplish, not what's reality. And I've had that said to me, oh, well, why are you just so sensitive? In other words, I should be able to treat you badly and you should be able to just accept it or just not worry about it. Well, if I don't really like it all that much, is that me being sensitive? Or am I responding to something negative you're doing? And so when they say, oh, you're just too sensitive. And in fact, we got two questions here. What happens when someone's nosy in your life, and what happens when somebody says, "Oh, you're just too sensitive"? And when someone says to me, "You're just too sensitive," then I like to be able to respond in a way that, um, first of all, I want to not get mad, because that's not going to help. If you get mad, the shame attack is working, because that's the intent. Either make you feel bad, get angry, get reactive. That's the whole point of it. Or to be compliant or control you or just do what I want you to do. And the brother goes, I don't want to change me. I just want you to accept my insensitive comments and things I say to you. And you are just to be not sensitive or oversensitive. And in responding, we have lots of ways that we can respond. I hope someday maybe have a book out on how to respond to immaturities in a mature way. Well, brother, I've not really known myself to be oversensitive. That's a really curious thing. Um, and so I'm not sure I understand what you mean. And again, I want them to come from behind the bushes. Why are they saying this? They don't want to tell you why they're saying it. They just want you to feel bad or feel controlled or feel manipulated in some way to do what they want you to do. So you're just oversensitive. Well, I could also respond, I consider that quite a gift. Thank you. And again, that's another response we can make in which I turn their negative into a positive. Well, I'm really pretty proud that I'm sensitive. Actually, I think it's helped me in many ways. And if you can see, I am thwarting the purpose of the shame attack. Now, you also mentioned something about what happens when families are nosy in my life. And that always, happens. Hey, I see you got a new job. Now, how much are you making now? I know you weren't making all that much the last job you had. So are you making better money now? Again, kind of a shaming put down with a question to it. Well, that's something I'm going to keep track of. And I'm actually pretty happy with the salary that I have, and I appreciate you asking. You notice I didn't answer the question. I don't have to answer any question I don't want to. Well, why are you being so sensitive about me asking you about that? No, I'm not sure I really consider that being sensitive, Dad. I just consider that kind of something that I'm working through and something that I'm dealing with in terms of my own job and my own salary. Is it important that you know? Is that something that you need to know? Um, well, I don't know why you're acting this way. Well, I know it may be a little new in the way we've interacted in the past, but I think there's some things I'd like to keep to myself and have me work through the ramifications of that. But I appreciate you asking. Sounds like you care. Hey, what's for supper? Um, so that's one way of kind of responding to someone when they're nosy. And a lot of enmeshed families, we have the notion that I have a right to know anything about your family, or excuse me, anything about you because I love you. And why aren't you accepting my love when I'm asking you how much you're making at this new job you have? When really they're not really asking necessarily for your benefit. They may be asking to criticize you, to maybe put you down, or say that's not good enough, or oh, that's all you're making. Huh. Well, that's a shame. And again, we're back to shaming again. And so I have a right to keep those things to myself. I've been working on kind of keeping my life a little closer to the vest so that I sort it out. So, when I feel comfortable, when I want to share that with you, Dad, I will. And thanks for asking. And again, I'm not reactive. I'm not weaponizing. I'm not giving them a hard time. I'm just staying in place, staying connected while being myself. Now, again, that will put up some resistance on their side, and we might want to be ready for that resistance. But that's some way to begin to share where you have some things as the salary is not a secret, but it is more private. And I'd like to keep more of my sense of self, which means I'll share that with you, Dad, when it's time. Well, I don't know why you're being so secretive. Well, I'm not being secretive at all. I'm just being a little more private. And that feels good to me. I'm sorry if that's different than the way we've always interacted with each other. Crow, I hope that's a help. New Chris asks the question, raised by narcissistic parents who shame and judge and blame, which often narcissistic parents do, I've been estranged for 5 years. Is it worth reconnecting, or is it a foregone conclusion? Well, that's always a tough question to answer because I always like to evaluate, and again, not all narcissists are the same. So some have narcissistic traits, some are truly narcissists. Some people may not want to totally disconnect from their narcissistic parents. We all have a right to make that choice. And so, New Chris, when you ask me about, is it worth reconnecting or a foregone conclusion? I like to think, is this a work of self-differentiation that I want to do? Does this need self-differentiation on my part, or does this need no contact? And I think that needs to be evaluated. It's often good to evaluate that with a coach or a therapist and work that through. Some narcissists, I think it would be a foregone conclusion, and you've tried 1,000 times. But see, even if we've tried 1,000 times, that doesn't mean we've done it in a mature way where it's created less hardship or pain for us. So I like to grow as much as I can possibly grow while dealing with dysfunctional people. And so I think it's an individual decision, New Chris, and I can understand you asking that. I do have a video on that you might take a look at about going no contact, and maybe you can find that in the Narcissist playlist on my YouTube channel. When we need to do that, and when we need to decide, do I need more self-differentiation or do I need to go no contact? And I think that's the real question. Because some narcissistic parents can be more responsive to more self-differentiation. There are others that cannot, and I know that. KZ asks, I am giving up on boundaries. I've tried for years to set them. It just makes everyone mad. Ironically, I'm duty bound to respect theirs, right, in terms of their boundaries. They have all made that clear. How many have been in families like that? How many have had friends like that? Where you need to respect my boundaries, but I really don't have to respect yours? Well, then there's a new sheriff in town, and it's called having a self. And that certainly I cannot change them, but I can change me. And that, my boundary is when I come over, for example, I don't like you telling someone else how my job's not a real job. It's just, and I remember having an experience like that, even within the family. It's just all I do is just talk to people. is an awful lot of work to talk to people. And you don't just talk to people, it requires a lot of thought and your own self investment to talk with people as a coach or a therapist. And if someone puts that down, then I can say, hey, I really didn't like that. I would rather you not do that. I can't make you not do it, but if it continues, then I'm going to have to make some other decisions about our relationship. I'd rather not make those decisions, but I will. And that may be seeing you less. That means if you're going to start in that way, then it's time for me to take my exit. So if you want me around, that's a way to not make it happen by either being shaming or putting me down. Um, Certainly, I would respect other people's boundaries. So I wouldn't tell you, KZ, to stop respecting other people's boundaries, but I would begin to work on my own internal boundaries. How enmeshed am I with them that I would continue in this pattern? Because somehow I'm not willing to take the risk of moving away internally. In other words, do I need them for something? Am I looking for acceptance? Am I looking for love? I want to be able to resolve those feelings and also any fantasies I have. Well, if I require excuse me. See, I don't require anyone to respect my boundaries. It's not a requirement. It's just if you don't, then I will have to make adjustments. There will be consequences because I can't make anybody respect my boundaries. I have to respect my boundaries. And that's where the internal boundaries come in. Developing your own internal boundaries that these are my boundaries. If they are not respected, then I need to make some adjustments or changes in the relationship. And I'm sure for many, they won't like that. Well, I am not them and they are not me. If they want to continue this way, if they want to have a relationship, then they can decide whether they want to change their behaviors. That's up to them. Thanks, KZ. Metaphor has a question. Jerry, how would you respond to you should feel embarrassed for these shameless behaviors? It's a great question. Or it's a great comment that someone would say. Well, I probably should, but I really don't. And so I think we might have a disagreement. Might be one response I might give to someone who's saying, I should feel embarrassed. And I also might say, I would tend to feel shame if I've hurt someone, which I think is a healthy shame. But I don't see any way in which I've hurt anyone. So I'm not sure I would agree that I should feel shame over those behaviors. It may even be behaviors where you're disagreed with someone. Like, okay, you're coming over on Christmas Eve, right? And you're going to be here Christmas Day all day too. Well, no, we'd rather come on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. Well, you should feel embarrassed for these shameless behaviors. Why are you being so unfamily oriented? Well, I don't know that I should feel shame. I don't know that I've hurt anyone. I think that I really haven't. Uh, I really haven't done anything to hurt anyone, which is what healthy shame is about. So why should I feel shame in which I don't feel that? I hope that's a help to you, Metaphor. And again, thanks, Crow Wolf, for the donation. I appreciate that. Silent, you have, after shaming and being abusive, The abuser says, why don't my kids come and see me? Is this under the cognitive dissociation or dissonance by him and other family members who knows he's abusive? Oh, certainly. There's lots of cognitive dissonance in dysfunctional families. Um, because they're many times unconsciously shaming and abusive. They maybe don't even realize that that's happening. And when somebody says, "Well, why don't my kids come and see me?" I have asked and or said at times, "I think that's a great question. You might want to think about that." When someone says, "Why don't you guys all come and see me?" after they've been abusive or shaming, well, Mom, I think that's a great question. Or sister or brother, whoever. Uh, that's something maybe you should think about. Because it is a question they need to think about. Um, and again, I would say it's a great question. It's just not a question for me. It's a question for you, the person who's shaming or abusive. It's for them to consider. You already know why. Well, you can tell them all day and they'll probably resist that. So I just say, great question. Think about that. That's what you and I have to do. If things aren't going the way we like or things aren't going the way we'd like them to go, then we certainly, uh, you know, uh, we certainly uh, begin to examine ourselves and think about what we're doing and think, well, why don't they come and see me? You and I would reflect on that. More of an abusive, narcissistic, or shaming person might not. So I just encourage them to think about it. Because I'm not going to get in the middle of that, because more than likely that's just going to be an argument if I try to answer it. It's for them to answer, not for you to answer. Thank you, Silet. Taurus, after 20 years of narcissistic abuse from a parent, healing feels scary. So scary. Like it feels so hard and heavy. All my small and big efforts to heal get sabotaged immediately. Immediately. What do I do? Very good question. First of all, sabotage is to be expected. And that's what we call resistance. Resistance and sabotage is to be expected. When you are working on healing and making those efforts to heal, it is difficult for someone to sabotage you if you are focusing on you. And it makes it harder for them to sabotage it. Also, your healing doesn't change them, it changes you. And I think so many times we think if we heal or if we're in recovery, it will somehow affect them and things will get better. Well, not necessarily. It could affect them, and it could even affect them in a positive way. But regardless of whether it affects them in a positive or negative way, it's my healing that I want to focus on. I am not them, they are not me. And I'm not sure, Taurus, exactly how they're sabotaging you or sabotaging your healing. Maybe you could ask a follow up question to that. But I think that if we are being sabotaged and that affects my healing, then I've got too much fusion, I've got too much enmeshment with them. And maybe I want to get some help for that enmeshment from a coach or a therapist and help me with that enmeshment. There's some great books on adult children of narcissists, and you could send me an email, and I can, or you can go to the website and find the books I've recommended for adult children of narcissists, and I think you'll find some help there. Dolly writes, Jerry, how do you deal with people who gaslight and shame attack and say it didn't happen in the way it did, or it is? Great question. Most times, many times, people are gaslighting or will shame you, and they will deny that that's at all what they were doing. And that's always difficult. That's always difficult to do. Because, again, I'm not wanting to change them to see it. Because if you're trying to change them to see it, then that's not going to probably work. What I want to do is to unplug myself from it, which is different than getting them to see it, because they're not going to see it. Like if somebody gaslights me and says, I said, well, that was pretty painful what you said, in the restaurant when we were there. And they go, well, I didn't say it that way. I didn't mean it that way. Well, you may not have, but it did feel painful. And I was uncomfortable with it. I'm declaring self without analyzing them. They can think about it however they want to think about it, but I did not like it. And I did not agree with it. Or when they say, well, it didn't happen in that way. Well, this is how I remember it. And I suppose you can remember it a different way. But this is how I remembered it. And it was very uncomfortable. Or I didn't like that. Or I would prefer you not do that again. However they remember it or not, you stay true to your own understanding of what happened. And gaslighting is always a good one. Well, I never did that. That isn't what I said. Well, it may be more important for you to remember it your way, but I'm remembering it my way. And I think that could be a helpful response. And again, the responses are to detach or disconnect me, not change them. You start getting into changing them, and in that mode, you're going to get very frustrated, and it probably will not work, and it just ends up, they will want you to be even look more foolish. So all I can do is talk about me in an appropriate way. And again, thanks, Paul, for the donation. I appreciate that. Moanne, my narcissist mother always says we've hurt her feelings and even states we do it on purpose. It's only boundaries. Truth is it's more peaceful. How can I kindly say life's better the less we speak? Well, I don't know. I mean, that's a pretty kind way to say it. That, well, Mom, I realize you have a tendency to feel hurt. I'm not sure why that is. And you believe that I'm doing it on purpose. I'm not sure why that is. If I need to say less to you, I can, but I don't know why it is you do think that way. And if you notice, I'm staying unplugged rather than I need to change Mom to stop feeling hurt. I can't make Mom stop feeling hurt. Her hurt is a part of her Wi-Fi in the relationship so that I will be affected by that. And I'm going to demonstrate and to live in a way that is not affected by that. It must feel uncomfortable that you feel hurt. it must feel uncomfortable that you think I do it on purpose. Wow, that must be painful. Well, yes, well, then you need to stop doing it. Well, I don't know how to stop doing something that I'm not doing. That's just really tricky. I don't know how to do that, Mom. But I hope you feel better. Moanne, I hope that's a help. Jurwalk, he says, an off topic question if you have time. If someone uses the phrase, you know how things are with me, instead of explaining what's going on with them as a pattern, is this a potential example of enmeshment? You know how things are going on with me. Of course, I'm not sure what they're actually referring to, but um, instead of explaining what's going on with you. And when someone says to me, well, you know how things are going with me. Well, I guess I wouldn't have asked you if I knew. And that second of all, I'm not sure I really know how things are going with you. If you'd like to share them, I'd be happy to hear and happy to listen. In other words, I can't mind read. I can't, I can't, I don't know all of your assumptions and your givens. And, well, maybe I don't know you as well as you think I do. So I hope you'll share with me, how things are going with you. And I hope that's a help, Gerwalk. Uh, Nate writes, though your help, through your help, I have greatly improved my own responses towards my mother. However, it's still very energy draining to be around her, and I feel guilty for wanting to avoid her. Any advice? Great question, Nate. The I think it can be energy draining, and I would get to the bottom of the energy draining portion. And maybe I would ask the question, a systems question, such as, if I didn't have this energy draining experience with my mom, what would be the downsides? If it was totally gone, what would be the downsides of that? We know what the upsides are. Oh, you feel better. But what are the downsides if I give up this energy draining experience around her? And I believe when we have that energy draining experience, we probably are more enmeshed or more fused again, because she's sending out the Wi-Fi and the pinging, which then we feel drained by that, rather than working to be more neutral, which is mom's. Mom can feel however she wants to feel. Um, um, and that also, when you ask the question about guilt and feeling guilty for wanting to avoid, if you didn't have that guilt, what would you want to do as an adult? Nate, if I didn't feel guilty, what would I do? And I believe that's a good way to get at what you truly would like to do. Um, and it's possible I may want to go a little lower contact with her. I don't have to stay in the same amount of contact. Do you owe your mother a relationship? Does she owe you one? Adults don't owe adults a relationship, not in terms of owing. And if a mother is behaving in a dysfunctional, painful, or toxic way, well, then again, you can respond well to her. And also, when it gets to the point where you start feeling um, an energy draining experience, then I would say, hey, well, I just wanted to come over and say how you're doing. Sounds like you're doing well. I'm going to take my leave. Because you're right. I don't want a relationship to cost me more energy and it drain energy from me than it is for them. I would rather them feel the energy draining rather than me. And she would rather you feel the energy draining. And that's probably a long-standing pattern, would be my guess, Nate, for the relationship. Um, and you know, you have a right to avoid your mother if you want. Um, I think the best thing I try to do in asking people, if there were no guilt and no one would feel bad, what relationship would you have with your mother just as she is? I'm not talking about a perfect mother, I'm talking about just the mother she is. What kind of relationship do you want to have with her? When I have my intentional relationship with someone, I feel much less energy draining if it's an intentional relationship that I'm choosing. If I'm doing it out of guilt or to suffer through the relationship out of some wanting to get her acceptance or feeling guilty or whatever, then I'm going to have the energy draining, is usually what happens. Thanks, Nate. James has a question. My father often projects his opinions onto other people, such as, I heard someone we know say that you're a bad son for not helping me with this weekend. How does one respond? Well, Dad, um, I don't know. Maybe I am a bad son. Um, I'm not sure I know why it's important for them, but I guess it was. But it's really not important for me what they think. Um, and, I think that sometimes I can help you with a project and sometimes I can't. I hope you can be okay with that. If you're not, sometimes I'm going to help you and sometimes I can't or won't. That's the reality. And that also, I would also maybe ask Dad, well, such as, I heard someone we know say that you're a bad son for not helping me this weekend. Well, I'm not sure I can do anything about what they believe, Dad. Is that what you believe? And then we could talk about it. But I don't see it as something I want to discuss about what they believe because they're not here to talk about it and I'm not here to respond to them because they're not here. I hope that's a help. And I think we've got 160 people who are joining me right now. I want to thank everybody for being a part of the broadcast today. Katharina writes, hello, what do you recommend for dealing with older, immature people? Let's be careful about older now, because I'm older. Older, immature people who repress everything and refuse to confront issues. People who can't do relationship talk. If you address a matter pertaining to the relationship and their behavior in that you disapprove of, they just refuse to deal with it and instead become evasive, hang up on the phone, and withdraw, even if addressed in a neutral, calm way. Oh, and that's I'm not sure that's just older people who do that. I think lots of people do that. And that's a great question, Katharina. A lot of people don't want to talk about how the relationship works. They want to ignore that or deny that. And that I want to know what the effect is on me when they don't want to do that. And then I want to remove that effect. In other words, if they're not willing to talk about the relationship, then I need to reevaluate the relationship. And again, as I've said before, what relationship do I want to have with them? What is my intentional relationship with them? And why am I continuing, or why do I want to fight with them about this issue? And again, as you mentioned, that they may do some behaviors or something you disapprove of, I would address them at the time the behavior occurs. Hey, Mary, I don't like that. Please stop. Rather than, let's talk about that. She may not want to talk about that. She may not be good at talking about that. But I don't have to talk about it. I just have to tell her what I would like. And if she does not change, then I need to change. And that change is not accepting her more. That change is, well, this behavior is going to put more distance in our relationship, Mary. I just wanted to let you know. I like you. I like to call you or whatever. But this will probably affect our relationship. And I'm just letting you know that. And so I think that's something that we can alert them to without going into the why and discussing the relationship. Many people don't want to discuss the relationship. So when people don't want to discuss a relationship, I have to adjust and deal with me. And what am I going to do? If I'm on the phone with somebody and they have bad behaviors or they're shaming or something like that, and I can go, I'm starting to feel uncomfortable with us talking like that, Mary. It sounds like maybe I need to get off the phone right now. Rather than going, Mary, why do you always do this? Or Mary, we need to talk about how your behavior feels hurtful to me. If they can entertain that, if they can tolerate that, then do it. If they can't, then you have to decide what you're going to do. And also evaluate the relationship. Do I want to continue to put myself in this situation where they're not willing to look at that? And again, they've probably had years of training to not look at it. And I understand that, but that doesn't mean it's okay with me. I can be empathetic while not being approving and not approving. Well, I can be empathetic while not just enduring what they're doing. Thanks, Katharina. Lisa asked, how to deal with passive aggressive people in whom you have told them you have nothing else to say and please respect my need for space. This person lives in my apartment building and always playing the victim. Ah, yes, victims and passive aggressive folks. Um, Again, if uh, or saying that's just not a topic I want to talk about. I don't have anything else to say. Um, and I'm going to have to leave. I need to go to the bathroom. I need to, I'm going to disengage in some way. If they are passive aggressive, or I think sometimes if they are playing a victim, then I might also share that, well, you know, there's some upsides to being in pain also. And I hope you have a great day. Or that it sounds as though you're angry, but I don't know. But hey, I gotta run. That's for passive aggressive. And again, they may not admit that, particularly if they're passive aggressive. It's going to be indirect. And it's, oh, I'm not angry. Well, that's fine. You can think you're not angry. But I think you're angry, and I think that's all I want to talk about today. Or it doesn't feel that good for me. Hope you have a great day. Um, and and if you've asked for your need for space, you say this person lives in your apartment building. If you've asked for a need for space, then um, I I think you want to reiterate that and repeat it and say, "Hey, I've I have been um, thinking about our conversation, and I thought, Bobby, didn't I tell you that I really don't have anything more to say?" And I don't know what Bobby would say. Yeah, but I just do da 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 da. Bobby, I had said I really don't have anything more to say. Hey, you have a great day. And we can do the what do we call it? A broken record, where we just stay with the broken record, and we can do that, and that sometimes can be of help if we keep giving them the broken record. And then if we need to dial that up some, we can. I want to tell you directly, I don't want to talk about this. If you continue to badger me about that, then I may have to do more. But that's up to you, Bobby. But I want to tell you that is my boundary. And then Serena has a question. How can I deal with being shamed by my parents for setting boundaries? They get angry and appalled when I set boundaries with them, and they blow past them within weeks. Well, I think the blowing past is very important. In other words, your parents are unable or unwilling to accede to your boundaries or to accept them. Then you need to say, "Hey, mom and dad, um, I'm not sure the boundaries I've shared with you are really something that you're able to continue. And I understand that if you can't do that, but then we may need to see each other less or have less communication. That's not my preference, but I understand that's what we may need to do." Um, when someone shames me for setting a boundary, just like, "Well, I'm not sure I want to share with you about my salary that I got at the new job." Well, why are you being so sensitive? I mean, we've always talked about this. I just want to know how much you get at your new job, how much you're being paid at your new job. Well, I know that's what you want to do. That's just not something I want to discuss. I appreciate you asking, but it's not something I want to discuss. And then they go, "Well, I just don't understand that at all." No, I get that very clearly that you don't understand that at all. I get that. And you may not understand it, but that's okay. It's okay if you don't understand it. I just don't want to talk about my new salary. And so they can not understand it if they want. They can disagree with it if they want. But that doesn't mean I have to comply. Thanks, Serena. Um, Gerwalk also asks, how do you engage in healthy self reflection and critique and not engage in shaming yourself? Most times I can protect myself against shame. No, and I mean that's a complicated question that could take a while. We're coming to the end of our time here, but I think protecting yourself against shame is very important. Um, And I think the more we heal our own internal shame and our own shaming and alienation that we feel from ourselves, the more we can protect ourselves from the shame of others. Others will want to shame. Shaming is one of the most common things people use in relationships and in parenting, unfortunately. Parenting through shaming is a very common way to parent. And so most times, he said, most times I can protect myself against shame. If I'm shaming myself, then I have forgotten that I am not them, they are not me. I have forgotten that it's not about me, it's about them. And that thirdly, I can um, work on not alienating myself from me. And I think that is important. In other words, we may need to comfort ourselves and partner with ourselves and care about ourselves. Thanks, Gerwalk. Thanks, Paul, for the donation. I appreciate that very much. I have one follow up question from Taurus. Narcissistic mothers are jealous of their daughters. Whenever I interact confidently, socially, she feels jealous and becomes angry towards me, and this lowers my willingness to heal. Well, then you want to disconnect your willingness to heal from mom's emotional field or mom's Wi Fi. That's a very important thing. And I would watch the video that I have coming up on how to protect yourself against shame attacks. Many people will be haters. Many people will feel jealous or angry when we do well. And that's one of the downsides of doing well. It's going to upset someone else. And that's where I need to disconnect from their upsetness. I need to increase my tolerance for their upsetness. It's okay if mom is upset. It's okay if she's jealous. That's her misery, not mine. It really is her misery. And you would not want to become less recovered or less healed so that she would be okay. That is not something we'd want to do. What we want to do is begin to disconnect from her Wi Fi. She can feel and think and be jealous or angry any way she wants. I'm going to continue to be more and interact confidently and social in a social situation. That's what I want to do. Others will want to pull us down, whether your mother, whether you're, but you're also, when you try to interact, you're also going to, um, you also are going to feel pulled down by someone else, and that's very common. And I don't want to be that enmeshed with them. Let's see here. Let me check. Um, let's see. We're coming down to a time where we're going to have to close. We're going to take kind of a last question here. I want to thank everyone. Um, and by the way, this will be posted up on the website later under the live broadcast, and you can re listen to these. Sing, Pray, Love has a question. Going through a divorce, I have a friend who expressed his displeasure with my unwillingness to help my ex because I found out he's using me. We had a great friendship for 4 years. Should I cut him off? Well, you can. I mean, you're free to do that. You're an adult. Um, I think I would be asking why to my friend, why Mary? Is it important for me to help my ex? Um, why would it be important for you, Mary, that I help my ex? I'm not sure I know the importance of that. I have my own relationship with my ex, and that guides my behavior. And of course, what you found out is he's been using you. Um, and again, you had a great friendship for 4 years. If you've had a great friendship, I'm not sure I'd want to trash it, but I might want to talk to them more about don't understand why it's important or why it bothers you that I don't help my ex. It doesn't bother me to not help my ex. And again, the reason it doesn't bother you is because you know you've been used. And so, I'm not sure I understand why it would bother you, Mary. I don't know why. I'm not hurting you. I'm not even saying I'm hurting my ex. I just don't choose to be helpful when with the relationship my ex and I have. And that's what I've chosen. And I have to make my own decisions about that. Well, we have come to the end of our time, guys. Please join the workshop coming up in September. Be sure to click to subscribe to the YouTube channel and be sure to click the bell so you get all the new videos. We've got a new video coming out just about every Wednesday. I hope those are a help to you. And I want to again thank you all for joining me today on this live Q&A broadcast, and I want to thank Sing Pray for her donation. I appreciate that very much. I'll be doing more lives, and I hope you guys will join me for those. I hope the answers were of some help to you today. There's lots of resources on my website. Please go there and check those out. Workshops for rent or to purchase, and other programs that'll be coming up. So again, thank you for joining me. Have a great day and be wise.